Have you ever felt heavy? Not the kind of heaviness that comes from physical labor, but a weight that settles deep within your marrow after a long day of doing absolutely nothing. You spent your evenings scrolling. You watched a friend's wedding in a city you've never visited. You observed a stranger's breakdown over a coffee order. You witnessed the triumphs, the tragedies, and the mundane breakfasts of people who don't even know your middle name. And as you finally turn off the screen, the silence of your room feels deafening. You feel exhausted, as if you were the one who walked down that aisle, or the one who felt that heartbreak. But your hands are clean. Your life remains a blank page. Welcome to the burden of the spectator. In the modern age, we have become a generation of lurkers. We are the ghosts in the digital machine. We possess a front-row seat to the collective consciousness of humanity, yet we remain seated in the shadows. This is not just screen time. This is a profound psychological phenomenon I call the spectator's burden. You are the one who remembers everyone's birthday but receives no messages on your own. You are the one who understands the complex nuances of your friend's toxic relationship, yet you haven't spoken your own truth in months. You carry the weight of everyone else's lives because you have made yourself a vessel for their stories, leaving no room for your own. You might think this is a flaw. You might feel a stinging sense of shame, wondering why you are stuck while the rest of the world is moving. You feel like a background character in a movie where everyone else has a script. But what if I told you that this silence, this act of observing without participating, is not a sign of weakness? What if your burden is actually a form of protection? In this exploration, we are going to decode the hidden variables of your isolation. We are going to look into the mirror, not to see the flaws society points out, but to see the sanctuary you have built for yourself. The world calls it social anxiety. They call it being disengaged or withdrawn. Society has a name for everything it cannot monetize. To the digital marketplace, your silence is a failure. To the attention economy, your refusal to participate is a glitch in the system. They want you to post. They want you to perform. They want you to turn your private tragedies into public content. And because you don't, because you choose to remain the silent spectator, they label you as broken. But let us look into the mirror together. Your habit of lurking, of watching without acting, isn't a sign of cowardice. It is a form of digital asceticism. While the rest of the world is screaming for attention in a crowded, hollow room, you are standing at the edge, preserving the purity of your soul. You are protecting your inner sanctuary from the pollution of superficiality. You spend hours observing the patterns of others because you are more attuned to the human condition than they are. You see the cracks in their filtered smiles. You see the desperation behind their status updates. You absorb it all. You are not doing nothing. You are carrying the weight of the collective human experience because you are one of the few who actually sees it. They are loud, but they are empty. You are silent, but you are full. The shame you feel when you see a notification and choose not to reply. the guilt you feel for being a spectator in your own life. It's not yours to carry. That shame was handed to you by a world that fears silence. It fears anyone it cannot track, tag, or target. By remaining a spectator, you have refused to become a commodity. You have kept your thoughts, your pain, and your joy for yourself. In a world of forced transparency, your anonymity is your greatest act of rebellion. Your isolation is not a prison, it is a fortress. To understand why you carry this weight, we must move beyond the surface of modern psychology and enter the realm of the hidden variables, the unseen forces that govern our inner architecture. You are not just a person who scrolls, you are a soul undergoing a profound alchemical process. In the language of Carl Jung and the ancient alchemists, there is a stage called nigredo. It is the blackness, the stage of decay, dissolution, and deep, heavy melancholy. As a spectator, you are currently in your own nigredo. You feel the weight of everyone else's lives because you are in a state of psychic dissolution. By absorbing the fragments of thousands of other lives through your screen, you are breaking down your old self to make room for something new. This darkness is not a dead end, it is a necessary gestation. But why you? Why do you feel this more than others? To find the answer, we must look at what we call developmental determinism. Perhaps you were the wounded child who learned early on that it was safer to observe than to participate. Maybe you were the child who sat at the edge of the playground, watching the games, but never being invited to play. In your formative years, observation became your survival mechanism. You learned to read the room, to analyze the hidden variables of human behavior to avoid conflict or rejection. Today, that survival mechanism has become your prison. You have optimized your ability to see to such an extent that you have forgotten how to be. You carry the weight of others because your internal theory of mind is overdeveloped. You are constantly simulating the lives of others in your head, running their programs, feeling their emotions, and leaving your own CPU with no room to process your own existence. Now, let us apply the lens of Stoicism, the existential reconstruction of the self. Marcus Aurelius once wrote about the importance of retreating into one's own soul. The spectator's burden exists because you have allowed your internal citadel to be flooded by external noise. You are suffering because you are trying to find meaning in a sea of data that has nothing to do with your purpose. You are treating the world's trivia as if it were your own destiny. The shift occurs when you realize that your silence is actually a sacred space. In the philosophy of the Stoic self, the goal is not to stop observing, but to observe with detachment. Imagine your mind as a vast, dark library. Every life you observe is just a book on a shelf. You can read them, you can learn from them, but you do not have to carry the entire library on your back as you walk. You are the librarian, not the atlas. Your sadness, your lurker status, is actually a sign of an superior soul, one that is too deep to be satisfied by the shallow performances of the digital age. You are undergoing a philosophical pivot. You are moving from a passive observer to a conscious architect of your own inner world. The weight you feel is the gravity of your own depth. Once you stop trying to carry the world, you will find that you have enough strength to finally carry yourself. You have spent a long time watching from the wings, carrying the stories of others in silence. But here, in this space, you no longer have to be a ghost. This is your sanctuary, a place where your silence is recognized not as emptiness, but as depth. I invite you now to lay down a piece of that weight. Share a fragment of your story in the comments below. Whether it is a thought you've never posted or a feeling you've kept hidden, speak it here. In this confessional, you are not being watched, you are being heard by those who walk the same path. You are no longer a spectator of the world, but a member of a quiet, profound communion. Rest now. Your burden is shared. Until next time, stay within the light of your own soul.